As another child murder incident in Soshanguve in Pretoria sent shockwaves throughout the country, Soshanguve residents have called for stronger police action in order to find the killer and want the community to help stop child murders in the area. This after 2 children were fatally shot and burned on Sunday night after an unknown man allegedly stormed their family home at an informal settlement near Changing Spot out in Soshanguve. To weigh in on this as well as other child-related issues, we have roped in Toby Fricker, who is the Chief of Communication and Partnerships at UNICEF South Africa. Toby, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. Let us first get your reaction as UNICEF SA to this latest case. We know that this horrific incident occurs at a period when South Africa is still commemorating Child Protection Week. Where are we failing our children?
Yeah, no, thanks for having UNICEF on. I mean, it's horrific. This is a horrific case that has occurred again now in Soshanguve, and it's not the first. I mean, tragically, this is happening time and time again, and that's really a tragedy. Not whether it's during Child Protection Week or any time during the year. We've seen the number of cases that occur on a quarterly basis, on a daily basis. 3 children are murdered on average a day. You have 28 who are physically assaulted. And the statistics are horrific. And that's why we recently released our sort of manifesto for every child in South Africa to really call for a renewed sense of urgency to tackle violence against children at all levels.
I mean, speaking of that, Toby, violence against children remains a critical challenge in this country. If it's not kidnappings, it's murders. Why do you think we're still seeing such a high levels of violence despite tremendous efforts as well as initiatives to try and deal with the scourge?
Yeah, I mean, I think the violence happens at different levels. So when I say that, what we mean is at a household level, you have really massive rates of domestic violence. And that occurs through, there's multiple factors at play. And I think that is where, of course, the challenges come in. We have to contextualize, we have to look at every single case, every single issue that arises. And that means working with parents. So we have what's called sort of positive parenting support. Evidence shows, both in South Africa, but also globally, that if parents can get support for their how to care for their children in early childhood, you can really make a massive difference, because what we're seeing is violence basically generates violence. So it's this cycle of violence that's occurring. You also look at the community level. So at schools, working with the Department of Basic Education on the school safety framework, for example, to really empower teachers as well to identify situations that they can refer children who are at risk, that they can refer to more support. And also at then the community level outside schools with the Rasiha program, with safe schools, with we have a number of activities in communities where children can seek support at safe parks in other areas. And I think it's really, unfortunately, it's a massive holistic approach, but there are many, many partners who are doing what they can to work with parents and try and reduce these rates of violence.
Toby, I mean, that's a very interesting note that you've just given us there. I mean, maybe let's expand on that survey that you did. I mean, domestic violence, I mean, how does it then also perpetuate in issues of children either being killed or murdered right inside of their communities?
Yeah, I mean, what we see, if you look at the statistics from the South African police statistics and others, it shows you from a domestic violence point of view, it's often the youngest children who are affected. So you see in autopsies showing that brain injuries, brain damage have been affected. And this is because of parents, caregivers, extended family members who are clearly in very stressful situations, clearly suffering from degrees of trauma and other issues, substance abuse and other issues that come in. And that's why it's so important that we can get that sort of household level support, let's say. But that's a massive challenge. It's also very costly to do that. And then also looking at those other levels, like I said, where you have empowering teachers, empowering child and social youth care workers to really be able to refer and identify at-risk children early, so that you can not only support the children themselves, but then also work with the parents and the family members themselves.
Very interesting indeed. Another issue, Toby, is of course the stats indicate that 23% of children in South Africa actually live in abstract poverty due to socio-economic reasons, which is a shocking reality. Let's try and outline, and also help our viewers understand some of the consequences of this scourge. And also, what do you think can be done to address this situation? I know you've mentioned that a high level of multi-collaborative efforts actually needs to be undertaken.
Yeah, that's right. There was a new report out on severe child food poverty, and that is has an impact not only on a child's sort of physical well-being, but also in the long-term development outcomes. So children who are suffering from very high rates of malnutrition at a young age are more their immunity is affected. They are more likely to catch childhood diseases, the common ones but then they can be deadly. But also then in terms of sort of schooling, they go to school, they can't learn properly, they struggle to develop throughout life, and that also impacts on their ability to earn, their ability to find and keep work. So it's really this early childhood moment of opportunity where we need to support children in those early years, which can then have a longer lifelong impact. But we need to look at like you said, a holistic approach, and that also brings in, for example, food systems, where you see the marketing of unhealthy foods, easier access to unhealthy foods, also cheaper access. We were in the Eastern Cape recently, and families telling us about how their food essentially runs out in the middle of the month, and children are going to school hungry, and not being able to learn, not surviving, and definitely not, thriving in the way they should be.
Toby, unfortunately, I understand that I have to release you now, but thank you so much nonetheless for your input. Hopefully sometime soon we can take this discussion further. That is, of course, Mr. Toby Fricker, who is from UNICEF South Africa.